I want to welcome you to Nazareth Home. I see a lot of familiar faces, probably because Dr. Jane has braved this weather to be here. We were supposed to be here last week, we didn't get the opportunity to do that. So I'm proud to represent all of our patients and elders and families and board members and sisters. We've been here, you all, since 1976, serving the community. We did a great renovation here about 2001. And then in 2015, we acquired the Sacred Heart property over in the Clifton community. So between our two campuses, we really support the community in doing everything you think about when you think about senior care and aging services. We have two standout recovery units. This last year, our recovery units were listed in U.S. News and World Report and Newsweek as the top 8% of skilled nursing in the country. We're really proud of that, and I always tell you that not to be boastful, but because I know the last thing that anyone wants to do is come to the nursing home. So we really think that it is our job to get all the third-party validation we can to show you we are very serious about what we do, and we're committed to doing it to the top. At the same time, we're fortunate that we feel that way about the people who work here. And I'll put our staff up against anybody in the country, and that's why we are always in that top workplace. Outside, you'll see a table where we have a new team member. Her name is Whitney Hobbs, and she has just stepped into the room there. You can wave. We have a foundation that we really like to use to support our being able to have the top team members and also the top clinical care. So this last year we were able to award 22 scholarships to our staff to further their education. So there's some information about that outside if you're interested. Also, Sharon Weigert, I don't see her here, but we have begun this last year a program of at-home services. So again, knowing that no one likes to leave their house, we want to come to you if there are personal care and service needs that we can meet, whether it's a recovery or a short-term time that you would need some support at home. We want to provide that. So, enough of my talking. You came here to hear Dr. Jane. And last year, when Dr. Jane was here in January, it was on brain health, which everyone I know is so interested in. This year, when she thought about what to engage you around, it's kindness. Yesterday afternoon, my book club, we talked about Theo of Golden. Has anyone in here read that book? I'd really recommend it. I mean, it's on the bestseller. It seems like every place I go, people are talking about this book. But the theme of that book is really the power of presence and the role of kindness and how it not only changes you, but can really change communities. And I think most of us, I'm looking at our age here, I certainly can say this about my age, I think most of us really do miss many of the things in our culture that were more civil and more kind. I think it makes us healthy and better, and it costs nothing, right? So, Dr. Jane, I think many of you probably know her. We met when she was on faculty at the medical school at University of Louisville. She is known in our community to be an expert in many things: brain, psychology, spirituality, aging. So we're happy to have her here this afternoon. So I'd invite invite you to get going.
Thank you. Thank you. While I'm getting myself ready, yeah, could you get your phones out? Those of you who have phones with cameras on them. Okay. And there isn't anybody with a phone. If you need a mirror, you know how your phone can be a camera, and you press a little button and it reverts to show you yourself. You can use your phone as a mirror. Does everybody know you can use your phone as a mirror? Okay. Well, if you don't have a phone that you can turn into a mirror, let me know, because we have some mirrors here. We're going to be using mirrors. Okay? So just so that you don't have to fish out the phone later on in the middle of the phone, in the middle of the talk. just have it ready. And if you get a call, that's fine. Okay. The title is No Act of Kindness is Ever Wasted. And I do a lot of talking about spirituality and aging and the spirituality of aging. But this is a spirituality that can be engaged in at any age. And if any of you are grandparents, you can teach your grandchildren from day one that kindness is part of being human, part of being a full human being. One of the reasons why I decided to choose kindness was that it does have something to do with the brain. We'll go into that a little bit later. But we live in such a climate of anger and nastiness, and people really seeming to take pride in how nasty they can be or how sarcastic they can be. And I even know some people who think that being nasty is a very sophisticated way of being in this world. And we all know all the wars and the talk of wars and the talk of killing and the killings and all that stuff that's going on. And we ask ourselves, what can we do? What can I do about this? What can I do about that? I can't stand on a street corner and hold a billboard and state where my feelings really are. I'm not available to do that. I can write to my senators and my House representatives and so forth. But I want to do more. What can I do? What can I do on a daily basis? Well, performing acts of kindness, taking care of being kind, and learning to be what the behaviors of kindness are, can actually change not only how you feel about what you can do, but it also can change other people and how they feel about themselves. And I think that if we adopted it, we could change the world on a global basis. So I'm getting really expansive about this, but I'm convinced. Research has found that even a single act of kindness can have positive effects not only on the person or the group who is receiving the kindness, but also on the person who is being kind. And I'm really going to focus on the act of being kind and what it does to us when we choose to do that. A simple kind act, such as a smile, just a smile, can enhance both the physical and the psychological health of the giver, as well as change the emotional status of the receiver. So, in this workshop, No Act of Kindness is Ever Wasted, a spirituality for examine. One, ways our lives have been affected by kindness received and given. Two, the actual psychological and physiological effects of practicing kindness. We'll go through a whole series of simple acts of daily kindness, including kindness to self, but also two particular acts of kindness that we can engage in. And then social acts of kindness, including the potential for a kindness revolution. But before anything, I'd like to give a definition of what is kindness. It is a genuine, selfless desire to be considerate, compassionate, and helpful towards others. It's a recognition at the deepest level that as human beings, we're all in this together. No matter where you live on this planet, no matter what one's culture is, no matter what one's belief system is, we are all human beings, and that is the common denominator. Kindness is expressed through body language, actions, or words. It's driven by empathy, a feeling for and a common feeling with another person or even animals. It's done without expecting anything in return, and it's creating positive feelings for both the giver and the receiver. But it's more than just being nice. Okay? We can know the behaviors of nicety, and we can behave nicely, and that's fine. But kindness goes deeper than that. It's an intentional quality of the heart and spirit that involves care, respect, generosity, and understanding, even when those things are difficult to do. It's a fundamental human quality of caring and generosity that builds connection and well-being and is rooted in a spirit of goodwill and helpfulness. Even young children you probably have known instances where a toddler will, see a parent crying or see another child crying and bring a ball or bring a toy to it. Dogs will bring toys to their masters if they feel that the person isn't feeling well. Babies in units in the hospital, newborn babies in the NICU, not NICU, this is newborn infant care unit. If they hear another baby cry, we'll also cry. So it's a very, very basic human characteristic. In Hebrew scriptures, chesed, loving kindness, is the primary characteristic of God. And in Christian scriptures, it is a key fruit of the Holy Spirit. So with that, I want to start with kind of looking at our own stories of kindness received and offered. And I have to tell you that if it weren't for the kindness of strangers, I would not be here today. Okay? And the people that I am referring to are in these pictures. Okay? My dad died. I'm an only child. My parents were the youngest of their families, and their older siblings were much older than they. I don't have any. My father died when I was 15, and my mother died the next year when I was 16. No cousins, no relatives. I had an aunt on Cape Cod. I come from Massachusetts. Had an aunt on Cape Cod who was in her early 80s, and there's no way on earth that she was going to want a 16-year-old to come live with her. She had grown her own kids. So what happened? Well, my French teacher, Cecile McNamara, learned that I was living in our house. My mother was in the hospital, and she said to me one day, she said, where are you staying? And I said, oh, I'm at the house. And she said, you're staying in your house and your mother's in the hospital? And I said, oh yeah. And she said, no teenager is going to be living in a house in the woods by herself. You come and live with me. And she didn't know my mother was dying at the time. We didn't know she was dying at the time. And so she brought me into her family of 3 kids and lived in a small Cape Cod house, 3 bedrooms with all these people. And I lived with her until her mother became blind and had to go live with her. And so 9 months later, she talked with my English teacher, Marjorie Strickland. And she said, what are we going to do with her? And Marjorie said, oh, she can come and live with us. So Marjorie and Leo Strickland reached out and gave me a home. And they were supported by my parents' family, my parents' family physician, David Greer, and his wife, who lived near the Stricklands, and who reached out, to have me over every Friday night for dinner, and they mentored me. And David Greer was the first dean of the medical school at Brown in 1973, became my unofficial guardian. So, had these people not reached out, this was the 60s, okay? This was the troubled 60s. This was 1964, 65. What would have happened to me had I been out on the street by myself, for myself? Who knows? But I do know that I'm here. It's because of them. Kindness. Now, that was way above. We're not talking about those kinds of deeds of kindness, today. We're going to talk about baby step things that we can do on a daily basis. What I'd like you to do is recall a time when you were the recipient of an act of kindness. Think about that for a minute. It could have been any time in your life. It could have been on your way over here today. What was it? What were the circumstances? And how did it affect you? Just take 1 minute, just to pull out of your memory an act of kindness that you were the recipient of. We had a long time, we had a whole afternoon to do a workshop. We could share these with one another. But is there anybody who would like to share an act of kindness that you received, that you remember and that affected you? And how did it affect you? Does anybody want to share? Okay, Selena?
Back in the 50s, nobody understood what dyslexia was. Back in the 1950s, nobody understood what dyslexia was. If you could not read till the 4th grade, you were just stupid. And so you spent your time in the back of the room in dumb reading. And that went on till the 3rd grade when the lovely lady, Mrs. Cook, used to come into school an hour early and sit with me and teach me word by word how to read. And in 3rd grade, I read my first hardback book on Athens.
And you have been reading ever since.
Yeah.
And you've been contributing to the community ever since.
Yeah.
Yes.
brother who's a year older than me, and a sister younger than me, and a younger brother still. Pete had a whole lot of boy friends in the neighborhood. He was just a year older than me, and he and I did a lot of things together, but outside, Pete was with the boys. I wanted desperately to do what they were doing. There was a sandbox that Dad had put together, and they were going to build it into a fort, and I wanted to be a part of making that fort and be a part of being in it, and it wasn't going to happen. I was told by every one of them that I couldn't be a part of it. It was tough. The kindness came from my brother as soon as they all left. He said, let's go out and play in the fort, just us, and it was great.
And you still remember it to this day?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Switching places now. Recall a kind deed that you did. What was it? What were the circumstances? And how did actually doing that kind deed affect you? Yes.
Actually, my first career, I've changed careers several times. But my first career was a social worker. And one of the jobs as a social worker, I was at Central State Hospital on the children's unit. And, I counseled the parents and the children, and one of the boys, which was there years ago, calls me every weekend, thanking me, and I take him out to lunch every couple of months or so. But, he is so amazing, but he's high level autistic, he's not worked, or, and he's living in his mother's home by himself on a waiting list for children's unit here in town. But anyway, he wants to recall old times, and he remembers more of the old times than I said. Remember that. But anyway.
So that just goes
It's a
to
great
show that
experience.
you have sometimes we have no idea that we're actually doing an act of kindness, but it does affect somebody and it can change that old person's life. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It goes down deeply. Okay. So, another question is, and we don't have to discuss it, but are any of the kindnesses, either received or given, having a long-term effect on your life? Going on, one of the things that they found is that watching another person do a kind deed can affect one. And doing a kind deed is contagious. We were on our way somewhere yesterday, Ron and I, driving through our subdivision, and I was not in a good mood. I was not looking forward to another bout of snow and worried about whether we were going to have this today and all this sort of thing. And we're going on the main street in the subdivision, and I saw this lady who was trying to drag her Republic trash can up the snowy driveway. She hadn't had her driveway plowed. And we were going too fast, and we didn't stop. But Ron said, look at that. It's turned around. The FedEx guy in the truck that was in the neighborhood stopped, got out of his truck, went down and pulled the trash can up for her. And it did two things to us. First of all, it made us feel guilty. But it just warmed our hearts. It just warmed our hearts. And I keep thinking about it all day. I've been thinking about it. And so it makes one alert to see something like that. And it is, again, it is a positive feeling. Even the feeling, oh, I should have done this, is a positive feeling. It teaches a lesson. So, what I'd like to talk about next are the health benefits of performing an act of kindness, or any kind of acts of kindness. First of all, it enhances a positive, gives you a positive mood, enhances a positive mood by activating the brain's reward systems, reward centers. It actually releases neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, contributing to feelings of pleasure, satisfaction, and overall well-being. So it actually has a physiological effect on the brain. And it reduces experiences of pain due to the release of these endorphins. There's an interesting University of Ohio research project when they had some anxious and depressed patients. And these patients were put into 3 intervention groups. One group was performing acts of kindness. Another group were put into a group participating in a social group, kind of a support social group. And another bunch were put into a group engaging in cognitive therapy sessions. So they would get psychological help. What they found was that the group that was performing acts of kindness increased their mood the most. And they think it's because they were diverting their attention from self and negative symptoms to what somebody else was going through. And the diversion of attention actually lifted the mood of the person who was anxious or depressed. Doing an act of kindness also relieves stress and anxiety. It reduces levels of the stress hormone cortisol, and that results in relaxation and calmness. And it combats depression and a sense of isolation by increasing social interaction, increasing a sense of belonging, decreasing loneliness and a sense of isolation, provides renewed sense of purpose and self-worth, and decreases the sense of helplessness that is associated with depression. It improves self-esteem and confidence by enhancing a sense of accomplishment and increasing positive self-image. And it enhances emotional regulation and empathy by strengthening neural pathways, actually physiologically neural pathways, helping to maintain emotional balance, creating better understanding of others' feelings, resulting in increased empathy. And then I just talked about the ripple effect, because kindness is contagious when it's observed by others. It inspires the recipient or observer to pay it forward and creates a social chain reaction. You've heard of people who go through the coffee lane at DQ or McDonald's or whatever, and they'll say, they'll pay for their coffee, and they'll say, I'm paying for the person in the car at the back of me. Okay? And that just sort of sends, again, a chain reaction. It also strengthens communities and promotes collective well-being. If there's one act of kindness that enhances the possibility of another one and another one and another one, you finally, ultimately, start creating a whole community of people who are trying to outdo one another as to how kind they can be. And there's a sense of humor that goes along with some of the attempts to be kind. One of the things that I like to do when I'm going into a store and some man opens the door for me. And I know a lot of men are not sure whether they should whether women want to have their doors opened or not. And so I'll always thank the fella, and I'll say, thank you, you've done your good deed for the day, you don't have to do any other good deeds for the rest of the day. And then there's a sense of, he laughs, I laugh, and then we go on to the rest of our day. But you lighten the load, you lighten the seriousness by doing that. What are the physical health benefits? Those are the mental health benefits. What are the physical ones? It increases cardiovascular health. Oxytocin dilates the blood vessels and actually lowers blood pressure. It decreases inflammation, lowers risk of some chronic diseases such as diabetes, obesity, and some cancers. It enhances the strength of the immune system due to the decreased stress and lowered inflammation. Increases pain relief due to enhanced brain endorphins, acting as a natural analgesic, pain reliever. And the question is, there's some research that's just starting now, does it increase longevity? It's possible, but there's no rigorous research yet. But if you look at Denmark, and there have been studies as to what country has the happiest people, what countries people most satisfied with their lives. And Denmark keeps coming back over and over again as the country with the happiest people. And one of the reasons for that, they think, is the fact that there are a lot of social service programs that are free, that are available for people. And basically that's a large evidence that the whole community, the whole country cares for its citizens. And it makes the citizens healthier, and it makes them happier. So that's what I mean about a global effect of kindness. So what are some simple acts of kindness? Well, the first thing that comes to my mind that everybody can do, the only people who can't do these are the folks that have a neurological disorder, such as ALS, or having had a stroke or whatever. And that is smiling. Smiling. And there's all kinds of research that is associated with the physiological effects of smiling. And they're all the ones that I just mentioned related to doing acts of kindness. So the most basic act of kindness that you can do is to smile at a person. And what happens when a newborn is held? Okay, you hold a newborn and you smile at it. Okay? It's a natural response to being with another human being. So let's take a look at smiling. I asked you to take out your telephones. Okay, do you all have smartphones of some kind? Okay. Because if you have a smartphone that has a camera, you can reverse the image. You can press a button by your camera, and instead of seeing in the distance, you have it focused on yourself. Can you all do that? Okay. And if you don't, I have some mirrors here. Does anybody need a mirror? Okay. Father Roy, do you need a mirror? No. Okay. All right. So put it on yourself so that you see yourself. Look at your face and its expression. Just look at yourself. Don't smile into your phone. Just give yourself a chance to just look at yourself in your phone mirror. Okay, keeping that, relax your face as much as you can. Keep that relaxed facial expression for a minute. Just look at yourself. Now smile. Okay. All right. Is it when you smile, is it neutral? Or, I'm sorry. What I want to get at is your natural look, one of smiling, or is it like I have? I'm going to be 80 next birthday, and so, what happens when we age is that we start losing a little bit of muscle tone. And I first noticed this when I was a kid. My mother was, I must have been about 10 or 11. My mother was going to communion one Sunday, and I was by her side, and I looked up at her, and she was an old mother, and she was walking to communion like this. And when we got home, I said, "Mom, what are you so mad about? You really look mad when you were going up to communion." She said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "You really look really mad. Were you mad at God?" And she said, "I wasn't mad at anybody." I said, "Well, you look like that now. Go look at yourself in the mirror." And she looked at herself in the mirror, and she said, "I do look angry." And she said, "I'm not angry. That's just my relaxed face." And I said, "Well, it made me feel bad. I thought I had done something wrong." So one of the things that we need to think about is how we are portraying ourselves. At my age, I have to put more effort into a smiling visage, because when I think I'm smiling, I'm not. I'm actually bringing the muscles back up to where I was when I was 20. And so you might have to, I gave this talk to a bunch of sisters of the Divine Compassion in New York, and we did a whole hour on getting it to the point of where do you feel comfortable when you just have a relaxed, pleasant look versus a smiling look. Okay, now look at yourself in your mirror and smile. Smile in the way that you would like to be seen as a smiling person. If I were just introduced to you and I said, "Oh, so glad to meet you," and you smile, we smile at one another. So get in touch with what your normal, relaxed face looks like, and what kind of effort you need to put into to look like you're approachable, that you're not threatening, that you're not angry with somebody, that kind of thing. What your smile does is it releases endorphins and serotonin. Who can use smiling as a way to create positive feelings in self? Almost anyone. As I said, people who are confined to bed, who are in a nursing home, who are in the care of other people, who have nothing to give to somebody else, or at least they think they do, can smile. I have a friend who was a home health aide, and her task was to go from patient to patient in their homes, giving them baths and showers. Nobody wanted to have a stranger give them a bath or a shower. They needed it, but they didn't really want it. And so they were, most of the time, the people she went to were very begrudging of the care that she was giving, except for this one lady. whom she saved for Friday afternoons, her last patient on Friday afternoon. And she would come and she would give her her shower, and the lady would greet her with a smile from ear to ear and would say, "Oh, thank you so much. You are so gentle, and this is so wonderful, and I look forward to this bath all week long." And she said, you know, by the end of the week, before seeing this lady, she was ready to quit her job because some people snarled at her. But this lady restored her resolve to continue the job. There's just one person smiling at her and being grateful for the care. What are some other things that we can do that are just tiny little things, but change the climate? One is listening to other people. Just listening. Listening to others when you have a listening ear. Another one would be, speaking of listening, wear your hearing aids if you have hearing aids. I know so many people who have them and they just sort of take them off when they're home particularly. I have to give my husband credit. He has new hearing aids and he is diligent about wearing his hearing aids all day. And I know so many who complain about their spouses, male and female, for not wearing their hearing aids. That's a gift that you can give. Ask others about themselves and their lives. Laugh. Insert gentle humor to lift spirits. Give up a place in the grocery line for somebody who has fewer groceries than you do. Another one that I think that is as important as smiling is a Buddhist practice called Tonglen, which is very similar to the Catholic practice of offering it up. How many of you have heard about Tonglen? Okay. How many of you have heard about offering it up? Okay. And I just saw your eyes roll. Basically, what Tonglen does, and a number of my hospice nurse friends practice this. In Tonglen, you recognize an aspect of misery, or pain, or suffering. My hospice nurse friend sits with a person who's dying, who is suffering, sits with the family members who are also suffering. And what she does is she takes in a deep breath and she breathes in the pain that surrounds her, whether it's from the person who's dying or whether it's the family members or whatever. She breathes in that pain. And then she doesn't say a prayer about it. What she does is she imagines this pain going around and around and around in her mind and in her breath. And as she's holding this breath, she imagines it turning into a white light. And she breathes out the pain that is no longer pain, but it is white light. So basically, she's using herself, she's using her body as a way to take in the pain, transform it into loving energy. Very similar to what used to be called offering it up, which I like to call dedicated suffering, is. In the dedicated suffering and the more Christian approach to this, you take whatever suffering you're going through. So, for example, I've been doing this with ice. folks. There's nothing that I can do related to ICE other than to write to my Congress people and so forth. But what I can do is let myself watch it on TV. I don't want to, but I will watch it. And I will feel awful, as we all do. But then what I do is that I offer it to Christ on the cross, okay, and basically say, take this pain energy that I have, watching this happening, take it, transform it into loving energy, because I am witnessing, I am choosing to be a witness to this pain. Take it, transform it into loving energy for all of those people, including the perpetrators, including the ones who are acting in this way. Not just the victims, but everybody involved. And so that enables me to continue to witness to the pain of other people. If you don't want to think of it in terms of offering it to Christ on the cross, you can offer it to God. If you don't want to do it theologically or religiously, think about your recognition of, you're witnessing this pain, the pain that you feel, recognizing that pain is energy. It's a lot of energy. And just intentionally, in your mind, intentionally transform that energy into loving energy for what's happening. And as I said earlier, when we first started, I can't be out on the streets demonstrating and so forth. But I can do this, and I can believe that my connection, all of our connections with one another, can influence the well-being of another. So that is an act of Tonglen or dedicated suffering are acts of kindness that we can practice as often as we want to during the day, and feel connected and feel that we can do something for somebody else. Going back to something a little bit less dramatic. Another thing that we can do is phone, text, or write. Keep in touch with people and let them know that we're thinking about them. Offer a genuine compliment to a person or about a person's loved one. Visit a friend at home, in the hospital, in the nursing home. Go to the funeral home or go to the funeral. I still remember, I was 16 when my mom died. I still remember people who came to the funeral home when she was in the funeral home. So those kinds of things have permanent, make the effort to go to the funeral home, just to be there. Even if you haven't known that person very well, actually, especially if you haven't known the person very well, family members appreciate it. Deliver a food treat to a person. You make cookies or whatever, soup. Shop or pick some item up at the store. We have a neighbor who, every time she goes to the Kroger, she'll call us up and she'll say, I'm going to Kroger, do you need anything? And at first I was a little bit thinking, does she think we're old people? And realized that she was, like 2 years younger than we are. So it wasn't just, a matter of age. Open a door for somebody. Volunteer, donate, contribute. Write to elected officials. befriend animals. How many of you are feeding birds now? I feel sorry for the poor birds. And I think we're spending more money on animal food right now than we are on people food. But those are just some of the simple things that can be incorporated into everyday life. And the more we incorporate them, the more we become conscious of them, the stronger the process becomes. There's one interesting thing that I didn't say about smiling, and that is there's this kind of smile, and there's this kind of smile. Okay? And the research on smiling shows that the genuine smile involves the eyes, and it's called the Duchenne smile, D-U-C-H-E-N-N-E, who was the physiologist who discovered the difference between a perfunctory, putting on a smiling mask versus actual smiling. It's the actual smile that that creates all of the positive effects physiologically. So, it's worth practicing. But what I'd like to hear, I don't know, I'm not keeping track of time. Mary, how much time do I have?
It's 4:25.
Okay, 5 minutes. Would anybody? Yes, thank you.
For Lent one year, a church I went to suggested that for the entirety of Lent, every day you do a random act of kindness. And so for that whole time period, everybody literally every day you had to, as you were going through the coffee line or whatever you were doing, you had to do in order to, and you had a calendar. They handed out calendars for you to fill in, just for yourself, obviously, but, just to keep yourself accountable that you really did this for this amount of time. And it was like the most fantastic. I mean, I was like sad when it was over because it was just like so much fun. Every day was a new little challenge. It's like, wow. I get to be kind today. It's like, gee, we can do that every day. But it was just a really fun exercise.
Yes.
I had several experiences when I was out shopping and noticing how, I don't mean to categorize them, but some of the younger generation were kind of rude, but ignoring, when I would walk up to the door, because I have always been very conscientious about holding the door, no matter how old you are. I'll hold it for a bunch of kids. And I'm noticing that they, open the door and they go through and slam the door in my face. And I was so disillusioned. I mean, it was just very disappointing. And and my daughter one time when I was telling her about it, she said, well, don't lump everybody. And I said, I'm not. I'm just saying that was my experience. And then in the past 3 months, I've had 3 occasions that I've walked up to a door and a 7-year-old runs up and holds the door for me. And it was so heartwarming and exciting, and I turned around. I said, you are such a polite young man. And he said, he just smiled, and you could tell he felt good that he was recognized.
Yes.
So anyway, I feel like that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, that is, and you use the word recognized. I think that's a major gift that you can give to somebody.
Yeah.
That's a kindness. So many of us go through life and we don't recognize, one another. We're quick to get in the way. When I'm in the supermarket, I have a tendency to push my basket, and I'm looking on this side and I'm looking on this side, and I'm not paying any attention to the people behind. And a number of occasions, I've turned around and, there's somebody who's been waiting for me to move to the side. And I can tell that it's usually a she, is kind of annoyed with me. what I'd like to try to do is diffuse that annoyance and my embarrassment by saying, you know what? I'm the only person in this whole world, apparently, and I'm sorry, I need to move out of your way. And she laughs. So if we can use humor along with the recognition, what you used was an affirmation of his behavior, and he's going to want that from a lot of other people. So he'll probably be practicing that a lot.
Well, it made me feel good just to have that interaction with him.
Yeah. Any other? Yes.
I think so many times, when we're
Nice and loud, please.
so many times when we're driving, we run into people that are speeding, cut people off and everything. I try to be kind and let people in and slow down and, I'm not perfect, but, I just keep that in mind, maybe that person's having a problem and, there's no sense in honking at them or whatever.
Yeah. Or you can wave or, whatever. Yeah.
It was very appreciated too, thank you.
Anything else? Yes.
6 months after I joined a recovery program,
Uh-huh.
this woman walked up to me in the room and said, "You're not the same man who walked in here 6 months ago." And it was like the laying on of hands. And I never forgot that. That was it made the whole rest of the 15 years go a whole lot easier.
Just that one, just that one comment.
Yes.
It's just we are so much more powerful than we realize we are.
Plus a squeeze on the cheeks like this didn't help. Didn't hurt.
I continue to remember, I hope I don't embarrass you, but Father Roy Stiles was pastor of St. John Vianney, and I lived on Southern Parkway at the time and was part of his parish. And one day, I was saying a mass at the end of the day, and one time a person came up. There used to be a food bank in the school, and he had was just about to start mass, and this man came up asking him for some food for his family. And instead of saying, okay, wait until after mass, I have to say mass, all these people are here, he just said to the rest of us, wait a minute, and he went into the pantry with this guy and filled up a box of groceries for him. I will never forget, obviously, that was a long time ago and I haven't forgotten it. So, and you probably have. Just some things, we really are watching one another all the time, whether we know it or not. And, I think that any little thing counts. There's nothing too small there's nothing too small that can ultimately, change somebody's life. And that little boy, that's the spirituality for all ages. We can encourage our kids, our grandkids, especially the young people, if they do something that's kind, need to get the feedback that they've done something that's kind. So maybe one of our kindnesses can be, alerting the next generation. So, any questions, any comments? Yes?
I can make a comment. I currently live at a nursing home, and it concerns me that a lot of the staff there don't even acknowledge when I say hello or how are you doing today, or they're so tired, I guess. Are they trained as social workers? Or I noticed your comment about Dr. Haynes. Did you skip over that?
Yeah, I didn't say it. Actually, I'd like Mary to say it herself.
No.
What did I say? Okay. I know. You told me once, when we were having, at one of the nursing homes where I was on the board, and we were having trouble with staff, keeping staff. And I said, how do you do it in Nazareth Home? I said, because you just walk into Nazareth and people will smile at you. Everybody, janitors, nurses, all kinds of staff will want to know whether you need help with this or that, and they always smile. And do you remember what you told me? You said that when you interview somebody, if they don't smile within the first 2 minutes, no matter what's on their CV, you don't hire them. You want to talk to that a little bit?
Well, I stole that from Southwest Airlines. I have to say, it had nothing to do with the faith-based or senior community. But when I was getting one of my master's degrees, I studied Herb Kelleher, who started Southwest, and he was a disruptor. And what he said is hire happy people. Because guess what? Work is hard, and it's hard to keep people happy. And those who have never been happy, you don't have a real shot at making happy. But Father, to your statement, I do think there are a lot of burdens, of course, that everyone carries. And not everyone who works in this field has plenty of opportunities to be affirmed. And I can tell you, our workforce, my hat is always off to them, because we are a hard-working group of people. Many of the people who work in nursing homes are one moment from a pending disaster. So affirmation really means everything. And what we try to do is when folks come in that door, to make sure that the workplace is safe and it's a place where they can grow and be acknowledged. Because typically the rest of their lives are maybe not like that. And winter, I'm telling you, is hard. A little story. Last two weekends ago with the storm, we had 30 some odd staff members who spent the weekend here. And they spent the weekend here because of not being sure about their transportation, about how they would get to work, what would go on. And it was a wonderful outpouring of their gift of service to all of us, that they agreed to come and we had mattresses everywhere. And I always step up to affirm the healthcare worker, and I hope all of you will too. Even though we're not perfect, you may have that moments that somebody's preoccupied, they're looking down, thinking about the next thing they have to do. But especially with a nursing assistant, they get directions from so many people, and many of them are really trying their best to meet the expectations. So thank you for your kindness to healthcare workers in our community, because it's a hard job.
Thank you. Any other comments or, yes?
I just want to make a comment actually to her and to you about the kindness, and you were talking about the bathing and how patients don't really want somebody. My dad was a patient at another nursing home in town and got terrible care, and we brought him here. And one of the things he commented, we loved it here, and one of the things he commented was the guy that did his bath was just the most friendly person, and he just loved him. And it was, it made me feel, because I was kind of helping take care of him where he was when he wasn't getting really good care. They did such a nice job here for people, and I do appreciate that.
One more.
My name is Alan, and I'm a Nazareth frequent flyer.
This guy right here, I have to say, I know, I'll, in all transparency, he's my friend.
I came in here after 9 months of COVID with MRSA infections. My wife decided chemo and her immunotherapy, she was going to go to Africa. Why? You know, and when you're turning 80, you go, whatever you want to do, knock yourself out. But she said, I don't want to come home and kick the door and find you, identify you by the smell in the living room, because you're dead. And so she said, I want you to go to Nazareth home for a vacation. And having caught MRSA at Masonic Home, this is the only place to get sick and get well again. And Matt, who is in physical therapy, is my adoptive younger brother. And he is absolutely terrific. And all the staff here are incredible. I use as an example all the little African-American ladies whose job it is to get the lowest on the pay scale and have to wipe more tushies than anybody else. Even Jewish tushies. And they are forever with a smile, a laugh, they joke, and it makes the ordeal unbelievably more easier. And this is if you ever need to donate or give, this is the place to do it.
And that is said by a major influencer and leader in the aging community. He and his wife, Harriet, who was head of ElderServe, know what they're talking about when they open their mouths and talk. So, thank you.
There's no place else I've ever done.
I'll tell Matt you said that.
Anybody else?
I think you have surveys?
Yeah.
Do we pass out? Yeah. So please, we really do pay attention as we plan for the year. And I think we have something we're giving away.
Yes, two of my books.
Oh, awesome.
Okay. I wrote a book a few years ago called No Act of Love is Ever Wasted. We changed it to kindness because, well, maybe, you know.
Oh gosh, I can't believe this guy has just won this book.
The spirituality of caring for persons with dementia.
Father Roy, I pulled your name. Do you want this fine book, or do you want someone else to have it? I bet you have one already. Yeah. I have a few plants in this crowd, just in case you didn't figure that out. Sister Mary Angela Shaughnessy. Where are you? Oh, she is here. Okay.
It's the No Act of Love is Ever Wasted, the spirituality of caring for persons with dementia.
Vinnie Beeler. All right.
I have a little something to say,
Okay.
but I need a mic.
I'm coming your
My
way.
voice does not carry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
About 2.5 years ago, I decided that I would go to the grocery. It was a snowy day, and I have a very dear friend who lived around the corner from me. And I thought, how are we going to have anything to eat? It was the end of the week, it was time to go get groceries, but not enough time to go and stay at the grocery 2 hours. So I called her and I said, what do you need from the grocery? I want to run down there, get some milk and bread, so at least we'll have milk and bread for these snowy days coming up. And so I went to the grocery. To make a long story short, I came out, I raised the back end of my Honda vehicle, and I had to park on a little incline, but not real steep, but it was a small incline. I thought this would be fine. And so when I came out, I raised that back into the car, and I noticed that we had that little incline. Now, she wasn't with me, thank God. And a little puff of wind came, blew my cart. I put my foot there to hold the cart. It slipped off. My hand slipped off the back of the vehicle where I had put my little groceries in the car. And with that, my foot was hung in the grocery cart, and I was flipped backward. And to make the story short, I ended up caving the back of my head in, and it threw me there, and I couldn't move. My legs were backward, and my arm was back. And a veteran stood at my feet and made sure I had an ambulance coming. Another act of kindness. And with that, it was not long, and he kept people from picking me up. I had many offers, kind people stopping by to offer their assistance. Well, I ended up having to have brain surgery, had blood clots removed, and I was over at Masonic for a while, and then I was transferred over here. Now, I had my application on the desk to come to Nazareth home when I got too old. And I was thinking about coming to Nazareth, but at that point I would have been going over to Bardstown. When I look back on it, in the beginning of all this ordeal, I felt sorry for myself, and I'm thinking, what good did that do to do this act of kindness for my neighbor? I thought if I had just stayed home, I would have been all right. But in the long run, the good Lord above knows best. And out of the bad came the good. I had my application ready for Nazareth, and I was treated so wonderful over at Masonic. All those fine people that you were talking about took me under their wing and took good care of me. And then I was transferred over here. And I can't tell you how wonderful these people have been. They come to work bright and early in the morning, most of them have smiles on their faces, and they have taken such good care of me. I feel so fortunate, and I just love the place. And no one made me say this, but I just could not see a good thing that was going to come out of this fall. But in the long run, I think I see the world completely different because of that.
And I think that the moral of that story is that trust that no matter what kind of act of kindness we do, even if we end up on the street with our heads bashed in, ultimately it will turn out okay. That whatever happens will be in the hands of God. One of the things I will end up with, if you're interested in learning more about, in deeper ways of kindness and loving kindness, these two books I recommend highly. The first one is The Power of Kindness, The Unexpected Benefits of Leading a Compassionate Life, okay? And it's in your handouts. And The Sacred Art of Loving Kindness, Preparing to Practice by Rabbi Rami Shapiro. This is one of the best books I have read in a long time. I recommend this highly because it's very practical. Things that you can do to put into your life the practice of loving kindness. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. King. Safe home, everybody.